The beginning of 2020 saw the continuation of violence that had been plaguing the previous year. Rioters still hurled petrol bombs to set fire and blocked roads everywhere. At one point, the rampage even spread to hospitals and train stations, with some lawbreakers detonating bombs at the Caritas Medical Center, Lawu MTR Station, and Shenzhen Bay Port. In the first quarter alone, 6 cases involving explosives already took place, posing a grave threat to public safety. However, as the police enforced the law resolutely and forestalled rioters' gatherings in the streets by timely intervention, the violent crime situation improved significantly since the start of the second quarter, and public order was gradually restored. Citizens no longer had to fear for their personal safety when venturing into the streets, nor did they have to worry about running into fire-setting or road-blocking rioters, as well as those waging wanton attacks on innocent citizens. On the 30th of June, the Hong Kong SAR National Security Law was officially implemented in Hong Kong, categorically targeting 4 types of criminal offense, namely acts of secession, subversion of state power, terrorist activities, and collusion with foreign or external forces to endanger national security. The new law has filled the void in previous legislation, enabling the police to enforce the relevant provisions and establish the National Security Department to bring all criminals who endanger national security to justice. In November, the police even launched the National Security Department Reporting Hotline to offer the public a convenient channel to provide any information concerning national security or report any acts contravening the relevant laws. Thanks to public support, over 30,000 messages have been received since the launch of the hotline. Targeting defiant individuals or groups in the minority that are hell-bent on challenging the rule of law, the police have taken resolute law enforcement action, and so far arrested at least 40 persons on suspicion of breaching the Hong Kong SAR National Security Law. Among them, 8 persons have already been prosecuted. By virtue of a concerted effort made by the police and law-abiding citizens, the overall law and order situation in Hong Kong drastically improved. The 8 months between July last year and February this year marked the most violent period that Hong Kong endured during its riotous times. However, in the following 8 months between March and October this year, offenses arising from protests against the extradition law amendment, including unlawful assembly, rioting, arson, and criminal damage, significantly reduced by half, while the number of arrested persons plunged by 70%. As for complaints lodged against the police and attacks on shops, both plummeted by 80%. Meanwhile, cases of hurling petrol bombs and vandalizing traffic lights as well as MTR stations were even few and far between. In February this year, the COVID-19 pandemic emerged. Police officers not only had to handle riots, but also needed to undertake anti-pandemic tasks. Besides assisting in the execution of the quarantine order by conducting spot checks to ascertain the whereabouts of home confinees, police officers also had to enforce the law in accordance with the regulations, including the one prohibiting group gatherings. To effectively track down the source of pathogens and supercarriers of the virus, the police even temporarily redeployed officers to harness the Major Incident Investigation and Disaster Support System, essentially a supercomputer. This led to the identification of over 60 infectious groups and more than 3,500 previously unknown contacts of the infected persons, and thus assisted the authorities in keeping the pandemic under control. The pandemic once put a huge strain on the market supply of face masks, and fraudsters capitalized on the shortage by claiming to have face masks to sell. Since the outbreak of COVID-19, the police have recorded at least 2,500 relevant scams, with victims being defrauded of over 74 million Hong Kong dollars in total. Sparing no effort in tracking down the swindlers, the police have arrested 135 persons to date. Despite the raging pandemic, some people still ignore the risk of spreading the virus and insist on gathering, with some of them even refusing to wear face masks. In order to safeguard public health and safety, the police have been taking resolute law enforcement action. As of the end of this year, the police have issued over 8,000 summonses. In 2020, the police not only had to deal with riots and take part in the fight against the pandemic, but also had to withstand groundless allegations and smear campaigns. Some Legislative Council members alleged that the police had deployed undercover officers to ravage shops, while some people accused the police of hoarding face masks. Some district councillors fabricated stories of themselves being arrested and stripped of their human rights by the police. In the face of an avalanche of malicious accusations, how should the police cope?
Many malicious accusations against the police actually come from people who break the law or who want to break the law, as well as those who support criminal acts or even wish to endanger national security. Their aim is to shake the public confidence in the police and undermine the force law enforcement action. However, our devotion to duty never falters as we will continue to serve the public, uphold law and order, and safeguard Hong Kong.
The commissioner pointed out that, as society has returned to normality, frontline police officers have been released from the anti-riot unit and returned to their original posts. The focus has been shifted back to community policing to tackle public order issues that citizens are concerned about.
Going forward, the force is determined to first and foremost help the public ascertain the facts and truths by proactively rebutting inaccurate information. We need to enhance transparency in the force to help members of the public better understand police work and thus garner their support. Of course, it goes without saying that all members of the force will still to remain resilient and execute their duties professionally in order to honor their pledge and gain the public's trust. Given that our efforts to stop violence and curb disorder have started to bear fruit, we will work harder to strengthen our relations with the public, fortify community policing, and channel our efforts into handling matters that concern citizens, such as solving road safety issues and alleviating traffic congestion in different districts, as well as stepping up patrols in the streets to nip crime in the bud. We hope to let the public know that the police care about so much more than just public order events.
As we venture into 2021, all members of the force will stay committed to their duties through thick and thin and do their utmost to maintain public order, to ensure Hong Kong remains one of the safest cities in the world.